So this is the post-game show for the Miami Marlins Atlanta Braves. The Braves take game one of the series after a 6-run seventh inning. Is just what we didn't want, right? A battle of home runs that we knew the Marlins were not gonna be able to actually match against the Atlanta Braves. A good start by Sandy Alcantara, going 6+. He ended up allowing what, 5 runs, 5 end runs, or 4, because the last one I think it didn't count to him because it was
it was they got him 5 earned runs. So
they got him 5. Okay, so he lost this game. He goes to the loss column for Sandy Alcantara, but it was a very exciting game. He had a little bit of everything. We can break down since the beginning of the game. I mean, it started pretty bad with the home run by Acuna, but it looked like Sandy Alcantara settled down at that moment. Let's go little by little. Welcome back, David Fernandez. Let's talk about this first game of the National League Division Series.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the ending to this game that you wanted. I mean, the Marlins, they were looking good there, right? I mean, you think about the job that they have in front of them, right? They are facing one of the most potent offenses in the league, right? This Braves lineup is right up there with the Dodgers lineup. It's right up there with the Yankees lineup. This is, night and day from what the Marlins saw in the previous round with the Chicago Cubs. I mean, the Cubs were a light hitting team. I mean, they were long on experience, but they didn't, they weren't any good with the bats. And we saw that. I mean, the Marlins limited them to what? Just the 1 run in 2 games?
Yeah, that one home run by Ian Happ.
Yeah, so obviously we knew this was going to be very, very different. And you worried about what it was going to look like moving into this ball game, right? And then when Acuna takes Sandy deep in the first at bat of the ball game, you really worry about what was going there. But then Sandy was able to bounce back, right? He had, nothing else came across in the first. He had the shutdown inning in the second, but then he ran into a little bit of trouble there again in the third inning. And again, we talked about this obviously during the game, but it seemed the whole tenor of this game changed in the third, right? The Marlins had pushed their lead to 4-1 at that point. We saw a great response from the Marlins offense, right? We saw the monster home run by Miguel Rojas. And then, in the fourth inning, we see the Cooper double that scores Birdie and Sierra. And then, Brian Anderson comes through with a single that scores Cooper. So the Marlins were up 4-1. But then Sandy goes out there coming off the shutdown inning in the second. He gets a quick out to start the third. But then Acuna comes up and he plunks Acuna, right? And then we had some dramatics there with that. And it seemed to kind of maybe get him off of his game a little bit because he ends up giving up a couple runs. I mean, what do you think about? I mean, I know we talked about it during the game, but what did you think about the third inning?
No, I think I talked to the guys about this. First, I didn't think it was on purpose. I think they were just trying to mix it up because they started out at bat with a slider in the outside, very beautiful pitch. And then you saw how Wallach set up in the inside, and that's where they've been working Acuna to try to get him out in the inside of the plate. And I know Ureña is not the best just putting the ball there, but Alcantara has been. He just, I mean, you can never know if it's actually on purpose. You have to ask the pitcher, and the pitcher can tell you whatever he thinks or whatever he has to say. But I think that was not the purpose of Sandy Alcantara, especially in that inning. Having that 4-1 lead early in the game, you don't want to have runners on. You don't want to face Freddie Freeman, Marcelo Zuna, and Travis Darnot with a guy on. And look what happened. A couple of doubles came up, and just like that, the game was 4-3, and it was a different game, right? From that point, even though Sandy Alcantara got to the 7th inning winning 4-3, and he did his job, and we had an inning where everything went bad. I don't think they wanted to hit Acuna on purpose in that precise moment. And even Sandy had the opportunity to strike him out early. The very next inning, the 4th inning, he struck him out with men on first and third. And that's what baseball is about. Yeah. He celebrated Acuna did his bat flip, and Sandy celebrated his strikeout, and that's what it is. I mean, you're gonna get the guy out sometimes, the guy's gonna get you deep sometimes. That's just part of the game. Too
Yeah.
bad for Sandy that in the last one, Acuna got a base hit, and that sparked the rally, the 6-run rally for the Braves. What do you think about Mattingly leaving Sandy Alcantara? We talked about it during the game, but it's gonna be a point of discussion in Marlins Twitter because he was 91 pitches in. We saw him the last couple of times that he took Sandy out. Sandy was mad, and this time he gave him the confidence again that he trusts Alcantara in that situation, and it backfired. I mean, it was bad luck. Riley hit a grounder to second base, nothing to do because the guys were shifted towards the left side of the infield. That's a base hit. Then Acuna hits a sharp ball to the middle, and that's a base hit. And then from them, it was just a mess.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. That's kind of the pivot point of this game, right? We look at the third inning. If he doesn't run into trouble in the third inning, and we have a 4-1 lead going into into those later innings, obviously you feel a lot better about that. And you would probably allow Sandy to go out there with the seventh inning with a 3-run lead, but going out there with a 1-run lead after having thrown about 90 pitches, you wonder whether or not the game would have been different had he gone with Yimi to start the inning instead of bringing Yimi in with 2 on and nobody out, right? I mean, Yimi's been really, really good this year. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not down on Yimi. I mean, it was a terrible performance by him, right? A terrible inning by him. He doesn't even get out of the inning, right? But you wonder if Mattingly maybe went with the emotion of Sandy, if Sandy lobbied to go out there for the 7th inning, he might have been thinking about trying to save his bullpen with a 5-game series, right, where there's no off days, So maybe he was trying to steal another inning there from Sandy. But listen, in retrospect, I mean, they put up 6 runs. I know that we talked about this during the game. I was against going with Sandy out there to start the 7th. I thought it would have been a much different situation for Yimi had he started the inning, with a clean inning, right? He gets it right from the start, and then he goes from there. And then obviously, listen, if it explodes and they get 4 runs off of Yimi the way that they did, people will turn around and blame Mattingly for not sending Sandy back out there in the 7th after he pitched so well. So kind of a lose-lose situation. Obviously, we're kind of playing the results a little bit. It was an incredibly difficult situation. I'm looking forward to hearing what he had to say after the game.
Yes.
But it was a tough spot. And listen, the bullpen, Yimi was good. He was good all year long. Hoyt has been pretty good all year long too. And they weren't able to stop the bleeding in that spot. They weren't able to keep it to a small number. They weren't able to keep it a tie game, So the Marlins offense never really got the opportunity to come through. Although they had some, they did have an opportunity later in the game.
Yeah, and when you come back to that game against the Chicago Cubs, Mattingly did exactly the same. He gave Sandy the opportunity to come out to the 7th inning. In that game, Sandy retired the first 2 guys of the inning, and then I think he walked somebody, and that was it for Sandy. And that's when Mattingly came out and took him out of the game. So if you follow the way Mattingly has been managing these games, he just did the same thing. It's just the difference is what you mentioned in the beginning of the video. This is not the Cubs offense. This is the Atlanta Braves offense. So that's something to take into consideration. And like you said, the Marlins had a chance to make it an even closer game with a rally in the 8th. They had Jorge Alfaro with a couple of men on and 2 outs, and he just couldn't deliver at that point. And that brings me to my next discussion before we go, because I know you want to go to the Zoom calls, and that's important because they're going to talk about all these details, and then you're going to see all these reports on the 5 Reasons Sports website, 5reasonsports.com. Jorge Alfaro, what do you do tomorrow? You play him with Pablo Lopez pitching, looking for more offensive support, or you keep trusting your defensive catcher back there with Pablo Lopez on the mound for game 2?
Hey, listen, it's a tough question, and Mattingly has talked about how he went with Wallach over the last couple days, the last several games, right? Because it's been more than a week since Alfaro's been in the ball game.
Right.
He went with Wallach because they were kind of riding the wave of momentum, right? The pitchers had found a groove. Pablo Lopez had returned to form. Sandy had returned to form. So it really makes you wonder. Now, Lopez did pitch really, really well to Wallach. So if Wallach starts tomorrow, it's because Pablo Lopez is on the mound. I think if it's Sixto Sanchez tomorrow, there's no doubt in my mind that it would be Alfaro. I think, though, that there's a case to be made here for Alfaro to be back in the lineup just to have another potent hitter. He hasn't been great this year. I understand.
Yeah.
But, he has a track record. We've seen him hit. We know that he's got the long ball in there. He can get extra bases. He can drive in runs when the opportunities are there. I mean, he didn't come through today, but again, he hasn't been in a game since, for more than a week, since before the Yankee series. So, if I were Mattingly, I'd probably go with Alfaro just because for the offense of it. But if it's really a matter of like Pablo Lopez needs Chad Wallach back there, then obviously you got to go with Chad Wallach, because what's more important tomorrow is the pitching performance from Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
The reality is, if the Marlins can score 5 runs, they should be winning these ball games. The Atlanta Braves offense, they scored 5.7 runs per game in 2020. So the pitching staff has to limit it has to limit that Braves offense. It has to keep them at 5 or less, just to give the Marlins a chance, because the Marlins offense, again, it's not super potent. They only average 4.3 runs per game. So, it's something that that Mattingly definitely has to wonder about. And, it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the right answer for me is to keep Wallach because of what you just said. In order for the Marlins to win the series, they have to keep it a low-scoring series. They're not gonna outscore the Braves just hitting home runs and extra bases all the time. So that's the main point of this series. I know when you look at it, you feel like, okay, we need more hitting. Okay, but you also need better pitching, and that's what you've had with Chris Wallach. Even though today is not the best example of that, that's what has happened in the last couple of weeks. So I think, my gut feeling is telling me that Alfaro is going to play tomorrow, but what I would do is just to play Wallach, just because you need better pitching. And like you said, at the end of the day, we can talk whatever numbers or this or that, but whatever the starting pitcher feels like, that's probably what the manager is going to do. So thank you, David. I'm going to let you go so you guys can cover the Zoom calls with the Marlins here in a second. You're going to have all that content on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be back tomorrow for the second game of the National League Division Series. Thank you very much. Subscribe and see you tomorrow. Big game.